Well, even though Team Arrow had a small victory, Chase is still not backing down in a perfect start to the finale. Hey guys, here on for Arrow, Season 5, Episode 22 missing, and I was definitely really looking forward to this episode. Like I said, this last chunk of the season, like the last few episodes we had, have not been my favorite. They really have not been. I think that the quality has not been as good, and it's mainly because we haven't seen a lot of Chase within these 3 episodes. Sure, we saw him in the last one, but I just felt putting him in prison was very underwhelming. We knew he eventually would get out. After this episode, though, this is definitely more of what I was hoping we get in these final 2 episodes. I loved this episode. So much good stuff going on here, and I really did love what we got within this one. But let's just get into this episode, because there definitely is a lot to get into. The finale next week is going to be insane. It's pretty simple. I mean, I expect it to be, but if this episode's any indication, we are in for maybe the craziest Arrow finale that we've had. But let's just get into this episode. So we start off and we see Oliver, Thea, and Lance are watching a newscast on Chase's arrest. And at first, things are kind of fun. Like, this is a fun episode for the first, like, 10 or so minutes, which I thought actually made a lot of sense, because at this point, they think that they're winning, and that they have Chase exactly where they need him, and that they don't really need to do anything else. You know, they've done all the legwork there is to taking down Chase, so they're basically done. And Lance tells Oliver that his mayoral approval rating is back to 70%. Oliver tells Thea that Rene missed the hearing to get his daughter Zoe back, and everything kind of seems like it's falling into place. Remember, you know, Chase kind of almost ruined Oliver's career. Well, now it's getting really great. And before he goes, Lance wishes Oliver a happy birthday. Thea suggests that they should get a drink to celebrate, and they realize that it's actually been 4 years since they've done that. And Oliver assures her that she's changed for the better and says that he has plans with Felicity. And Thea wonders if they have a date. Oliver admits he doesn't really know. Things are kind of awkward between them, and it seems that he has very well moved on from Susan. Like, she mentions Susan, he quickly says it's Felicity, and he insists it's just dinner as he goes, but Thea doesn't really believe it. She thinks that there's definitely more to it, and that night, Oliver goes to Felicity's apartment. He finds the door ajar, and when someone comes at him, he throws them to the floor, but realizes that it's actually Curtis, and everyone on the team then yells surprise. And this was a really satisfying scene. After a really devastating season, well, I wouldn't say the season has been as dark as last year's, but after some really heavy stuff, it was nice to see kind of like a fun, you know, just this fun sequence for a change of pace. And everyone on the team's yelling surprise. They have some cake. Curtis shows Felicity the sonic modulators he's been working on for Dinah, and Felicity tells him that Dinah plans to swing by if work doesn't keep her. And meanwhile, Diggle explains that Lyla and John Jr. are visiting Lila's sister in Chicago, so she couldn't make it, and he assures Oliver that they have patched things up and everything's good there. But just as Lance arrives late, he tells Thea that Rene wasn't home and hasn't been for a couple of days. So immediately, he is kind of drawing some red flags here. So they share a toast to Oliver's birthday, and Lance wonders what they're going to do now that Chase is in prison. So Thea gets everyone over to the cake except Oliver and Felicity, and they realize that their teammates plan to leave them alone, obviously because they do want them to, I guess, have their moments, and they agree to take it one step at a time, and I like that. I like that they didn't try to rush in anything, because they know last time this obviously didn't work, so they're trying to be as, you know, gradual as possible, and Felicity figures it's hard for Oliver to take a break, and she assures him that they won and tells Oliver to relax. You know, remember, in their eyes, they think that they're done. They think that Chase is behind bars, that he's going to stay there, and that they're completely fine. So I thought, again, this was a really good start here, but then we cut to 5 years ago, and I loved what we got in the flashbacks. As great as John Segarra has been, I think he has been fantastic as this character of Chase. I think equally as great is Donald Lundgren. I mean, he has been fantastic as Kovar, and I love seeing him back in this episode. He is now chained Oliver to the ceiling of the prison. He tells Oliver that nothing really dies. He injects Oliver with a drug intended to induce psychological anguish, and that's why Oliver intended to return to Star City from Lian Yu, and Oliver refuses to answer, and Kovar then injects him with the drug. Oliver promises to make sure that Kovar is dead the next time because he thought he was, and Kovar tells him that when they're done, the only person Oliver wants to kill is himself, and it's very similar to what Chase did to him. You know, you can tell obviously this isn't the first time that this happened to Oliver, and I definitely like seeing how this happened to him so many years ago. So after the party, Curtis calls Felicity to discuss her relation with Oliver. He goes to Dinah's to drop off the modulator, and he finds the patio door broken open. He goes to check on Dinah, and he finds the place completely torn up, and he then sees something, someone knocks him out, drags him away, leaving his phone behind, and Oliver and Diggle then soon arrive at the apartment. They find Curtis's phone, and they figure that Rene had to be abducted as well. So Oliver figures that Chase is responsible, and Felicity points out that Chase is in an Argus cell, and confirms that he's still there, so there's no way that Chase could be, doing any of this. But I mean, Chase is a very powerful man. You definitely get the sense he's definitely pulling strings, even while he's in the cell, and he confirms that he's still there. Oliver figures that someone is working with Chase on the outside, and they find a League dart embedded in the end table, and Oliver tells Diggle to get Thea and Lance to an Argus safe house, and then meet Oliver at the bunker. So he then leaves to talk to Chase, because he obviously knows that they're definitely not done, and that there definitely is more allies that Chase has than he thinks he does. And Oliver enters the room around the cell. He demands to know where his teammates are, and Chase says that he knows Oliver's every move, and tells him that he'll see him later as he leaves, and that he's just not going to be able to take him down. He's just too smart for him. Honestly, that's just kind of the truth of the matter, is that Chase is too smart for Oliver, and he's not going to be able to take him down as easily as he thinks. So we then get to 5 years ago, and Kovar is telling Oliver that he revels in pain, and explains that he had to wake Oliver up and make him realize that the pain he suffered is still with him, and he touches Oliver's scars, and Oliver relieves all the pain from when they were first inflicted. And back in the present, Oliver arrives at the bunker. Felicity steps out. She trains a rifle on him, and he says that he wants her in the bunker with him so that they can both try to stop Chase. And Felicity wonders if that's the only reason Oliver wants her to stay there, because that's what it seems like to her. And Oliver figures that he let his guard down when he shouldn't have, and he knew something was wrong, but he ignored his instincts. He thought that they were done, but in the back of his mind, he was kind of like, you know what, maybe there still is, more loose ends to tie up, and there clearly were. Now everyone he loves is in danger, and Felicity insists that no one could have found William, but Oliver doesn't believe it. He thinks that, Chase did get to William, and we know that's the case, that he did use William, we just don't know how. And Dio comes in, reports that Lance and Thea are at the safe house, and a message then comes in that Black Siren has escaped from Argus custody, and I love getting the return of Black Siren here. Katie Cassidy, I've talked before, she is really great as this character. There are so many different, different characters she's had to channel, and Black Siren is definitely one of her most interesting ones. And what's great is that she is going to be a main character next year, so I'll talk about more about that a little bit later on, but I really like seeing Black Siren here. But basically, she has escaped from Argus custody, and they figure that she's working with Chase. She has to be the one that's doing this, that he'll send her after Lance. So at the safe house, Thea and Lance are going stir crazy. Lance wants to talk to the judge in Renee's case, and Thea points out there's nothing he could say that the judge would believe, but Lance refused to let someone else lose their daughter. He knows what it's like to endure that pain. And the Argus guard then realizes that their comms are on the fritz, and he goes to investigate, and Thea and Lance go after him. They find the guard stranked on the floor. Lance sees a woman and follows her, and of course, it's the Earth 2 Laurel. And Laurel does whatever she can Lance does whatever she can here to, put on this facade of being like Laurel, and says, hi to him, and walks toward him. And Thea then comes in, trains her gun on Laurel, and before she can explain, Artemis then tranks both of them. And I love getting the return of Artemis here. I've talked about it before. I think she's been an extremely underused character, mainly because a lot of people did not like her initially, but I definitely really did like what they've been doing with her from here on out. I think she's been a really great character, and I like that Lance almost was distracted, but in the end, it was just too late for him. Like, Thea obviously tried to train him, but unfortunately, Anarchy did trank both of them, and this really does start the main tumultuous events of this episode. So later, Oliver and Felicity arrive at the safe house, and Felicity brings up the surveillance footage of the attack, and the Argus agent that was paid to let Black Siren out said that someone matching Artemis' description actually gave him the money. So the guard identifies Artemis as well, and Oliver figures that Chase is trying to take away his strength by capturing his team. That's really what's going on here, because obviously Oliver does a pretty substantial team, and Chase really doesn't, so he obviously wants to take away everyone working for Oliver, and he tells them that they have to leave the state and not tell him where they're going, because Chase will, Chase knows how Oliver thinks, and he won't expect them to split up. He'll expect them to stick together, so Oliver can focus on finding their teammates. So, yeah, in Arrow, Oliver does think it's actually smart for them to leave town. In Flash, for some reason, that wasn't an option, but in Arrow was. I don't really understand the mentality of that, but I think Arrow's just done things a lot better this season, so it makes sense. So, 5 years ago, Kovar then tosses Oliver in a cell, tells him that the worst pain is in his mind, the drug will show Oliver all of it, and his bloodlust and his inhumanity, and Kovar gives Oliver a gun, explains that it only has one bullet. He says they both know who is responsible for Oliver's pain, and figures that Oliver can resist shooting himself for 14 minutes before he ends his suffering, and Oliver then hallucinates Yayo Phi, telling him that he'll shoot himself because he knows that he should die. And we then go back to the present, where Oliver goes into Chase's cell, he beats him, he draws a gun, tells him he's never going to give Chase the satisfaction of killing him, and proving that Chase is right. There's no way he's going to do that. And Oliver promises that Chase will never get out. Chase tells him that he's wrong. The only way Oliver can keep them from paying the price of knowing Oliver is if Oliver lets him go. And Oliver tells them that he's going to find another way, and walks out. He's obviously not just going to let Chase break free, and Chase tells him that they're transferring him out of Star City tonight, and that his offer is off the table. So he wonders if Oliver will have to lose to break Oliver forever. And definitely makes me think that there's a very significant death coming. I think in this finale, someone very close is going to die to Oliver, and I think that's really going to be the thing that gets Oliver to kill Chase, even though he doesn't, he is killing again. I think he's going to have to in this case. So, as Black Siren and Artemis transfer and Lance is in a truck, Thea explains that the Black Siren isn't the Laurel that Lance knows, and she tries to explain about parallel Earths, but Lance doesn't believe her at first, which is understandable. Lance hasn't really experienced any of this stuff. He's been very much on the outs of a lot of this, so it makes sense why he doesn't really believe her. But Thea warns that Black Siren is very convincing, but unfortunately he just can't believe her. So Artemis and Black Siren stop the truck, they take them out, and as Felicity and Diggle then drive away from Star City, Felicity says she has a bad feeling that they never should have left Oliver alone, because now he's in even more danger. So Oliver goes to the bunker, he looks at his teammates' uniforms, and someone then watches him from the rafters, and Diggle says that leaving Oliver feels wrong, which is why it might be the right thing to do, and Felicity wonders if they've overthought it, and now Oliver is vulnerable, and maybe leaving them has just made Oliver, more expendable in this case. So Oliver throws a dart at his watcher. The man then drops down to the floor, and we see Merlyn easily catches it. And I love seeing the return of Merlyn in this episode. I love we got with them Legends tomorrow, but just like seeing Snart on Flash, there's something about Merlyn. He just brings this energy to the show, and I don't think he works as a main character. I think, unlike Snart, it makes sense why Merlyn's not a main character, because, honestly, the show did not know what to do with him last season. They really didn't. They tried to give him this connection to, Dark and such, and it just didn't work. I think by having Dark, by having Merlyn in sporadically, I think it makes a lot more sense to do that. So he throws a dart at his watcher, and he reminds Oliver that he saved Oliver's life the last time he was there, and admits he wasn't thinking clearly when he told Dark about William. He very much does regret that, and Merlyn insists that now his only concern is saving Thea, obviously because Thea's in danger, and a black-clad woman with swords then steps out onto the road in front of Diggle and Felicity, and Diggle tries to run her over, but their attacker stops aside and slashes the side of the car, and it crashes in the truck and explodes. Diggle and Felicity then crawl out of the wreckage, and the League Assassins easily capture them. So again, it seems that they're completely outnumbered here. Like, Chase will find them no matter what, and again, it's because he has such a large army following their every move, and that's really why Chase, I think, is as unbeatable as he really is. So a short time later, Oliver and Merlyn arrive at the crash site, and Merlyn tells Oliver to focus and asks if he's tagged them, and Oliver explains that the nanite tracers in Felicity were rendered useless when Chase set off the EMP. So he figures that Chase won't keep up his end of the bargain, even if he breaks Chase out. He knows the way Chase thinks, and he knows that Chase obviously wants vengeance, and he also knows that Chase said, look, what do I have to do to get you to lose someone? That someone could very well be Felicity, and I would not be surprised if Chase went there. I mean, Oliver killed the woman Chase literally killed the woman that he loved most, so he really would not care if he killed the woman that Oliver loves most. Definitely he would do that, but basically Merlyn says that if he'll give it to Chase if it gets Thea back, but Merlyn figures that Oliver would do anything to keep his son alive, and Oliver says that he has to become something different so as to not endanger his friends. And as he walks off, Merlyn tells him that human connections are what keep them human, and he says that Oliver will always have people in his life, and if Oliver can't accept that, then the past will always be his anchor. That's something that Oliver has done basically all season. Remember, he wanted to work at this alone. Way back in the first episode of the season, he was very against the idea of a team. He's like, look, I need to be by myself. I need to do this alone. I can't have this team following me. But that's the thing that Oliver really needs. He needs people to help him because he just can't do it all alone. I mean, especially with someone like Chase. Chase is just so powerful that he can't possibly do it alone. And basically, the federal marshal calls to tell Oliver that they're transferring Chase. And once he hangs up, Oliver tells Merlyn that he's going to make sure that Chase's transfer goes smoothly, and then they'll be able to rescue everyone. So we cut to 5 years ago, and Yao Fi insists that he's as real as Oliver's conscience, and accuses Oliver of squandering his sacrifice and his daughter. And Oliver apologizes, and Yao Fi says that apologies won't bring back everyone that Oliver has lost, and those that he has yet to lose. Of course, you know, his daughter being, that woman, I can't think of her name right now, but she was Tattoony, something like that. She was on last season, but he tells Oliver that Oliver knows that those close to him will suffer for his sins, but Oliver can save them by making the same sacrifice that he made for Oliver. So again, beautifully connecting to the present about how Oliver does make these sacrifices, but having this team close to him, you know, they are going to suffer. That's why Oliver's always thought about that everyone who's close to him, you know, will suffer for that reason. So we go back to the present. Black Siren puts Lance in a shipping container. She calls him dad, and he tells her that she's not his loyal and says it's hard for her. She owes her freedom to Chase, and in exchange, she gives him her help. And Chase assures that Lance won't be hurt. So Lance says that his loyal wouldn't believe him, and Black Siren knows that Lance lost his daughter, and with that, she walks out. And Oliver then watches as the marshals transfer Chase. He tells Chase that he's not pulling his strings anymore, and Chase tells him at the moment he gets on the transfer chopper, his friends will kill Oliver's, and that's how this is going to go. And Oliver's phone then rings. A video of William comes up. The boy begs anyone to help him, so Oliver sees that William is in fact in danger, and after the truck drives off with Chase, Oliver runs out. The escorts pull up in a van. Oliver tells that he needs it, and when he tries to take it, they attack him. Oliver fights back. Malcolm arrives, shoots them down, figures that that Chase actually took William, and he tosses Oliver a duffel with his costume. The marshals then take Chase to the helipad, and the transfer chopper arrives, and an explosion then goes off behind the escort, and Merlyn and a masked Oliver then take down the marshals. Oliver fires an exploding arrow ahead of the escort. Merlyn takes out the snipers while Oliver goes after Chase, and Chase then takes out the chopper pilot. Oliver grabs him, demands to know where his loved ones are, and the former DA tells him he's not gone yet. Oliver asks him why he involved William. Like, why of everyone would he get William involved? And Chase says that his wife was innocent, but Oliver involved her, so obviously he's going to do the same to Oliver, which honestly is kind of a smart move, obviously, because Oliver did that. And basically reminds Oliver that he said everyone that Oliver cares about suffers, and that's true with William. William will suffer, and he says that he'll see Oliver on the boat, flies off in the chopper, and you can honestly understand why Chase does feel this way. Oliver didn't have to get his wife involved, but because she was involved, she was in fact suffering, and Chase felt that he needed to kill her for that reason, and that's why he took William, and I think that comparison is definitely very strong here. So back at the bunker, Oliver confirms that Chase flew the chopper to the abandoned airstrip in Utah, and then took another aircraft heading back to Star City, and Oliver then accesses a keyhole satellite that Felicity set up to track the heat signature of any aircraft in the world, and an alarm goes off, and Oliver says that he's bringing in help to match Chase's allies, because obviously, Chase has developed a very strong army, so Oliver really needs the big guns here, and we see who better to do that than Nyssa, and yes, Nyssa comes in, and this is someone that Chase is not going to go after, because technically Oliver and Nyssa are in fact married. The fact that Chase has not gone after her, I think is very surprising, but Malcolm refuses to work with the person who took his position in the league. Why would he possibly do that? I mean, remember, Merlyn wanted to become the Ra's al, he wanted to become the new Ra's al Ghul, but Nyssa took his place in that, so obviously he's not going to work with her, but Oliver tells me he said that he'd do whatever it takes to get Thea back, and Merlyn does agree to that. So he asks if if Nyssa knows. He tells her that one of the people they're up against is her sister Talia, and the satellite then shows her that Chase has changed course, and Oliver realizes where he's going. So later, Oliver, Merlyn, and Nyssa fly westward across the ocean. He explains that Talia must have told Chase everything about him, including his time on Lian-Yu. So obviously, that's why Chase is headed there, because that's kind of what this all goes back to. And we go to 5 years ago, where Oliver prepares to shoot himself. He hallucinates Laurel, telling him to stop. Of course, Laurel was his girlfriend at the time, and he says it's the only way to keep his loved ones safe, and Laurel tells him that they need him home, and if he doesn't, then Robert and Sarah will have died for nothing, and the vision then disappears. Oliver shoots the lock out of the cell door, and we then cut to the present, where the League Assassins Manacle, Felicity, and Diggle with Thea, Lance, and Curtis. We see Chase, Black Siren, and Artemis arrive, and Chase says that he's counting on Oliver coming for them. He knows it's going to happen, and Diggle and Curtis then figure that Oliver can't do it alone. He obviously needs a team. And then we get to the ending, which is just fantastic, where he goes to the Argus prison on the island, and he goes to the one person that we all have been waiting for him to finally confront, where he sees Slade. He tells Slade that he needs his help. Slade smiles, says that he's glad Oliver came back, so Oliver has officially completed his army, and that is the way this episode ends. Really great stuff overall, but let's just get this episode of where we are headed next week. So, wow, guys, I mean, what a way to set up the finale. Look, I really did love what The Flash did this week. I thought it was a really great episode, but that's nothing compared to Arrow. I mean, Arrow really has been so consistent all season long. Even this last half, I haven't loved it as much because it hasn't been absolutely fucking amazing. This episode really made up for it. I mean, just seeing the return of Merlyn, Nyssa, and Slade, I mean, really did perfectly set up everything. Oliver has really established this army of even enemies that he'd never really think he'd fight with, but he does kind of need them to his advantage. I mean, Slade, he's done what he needs to do with him. Merlyn, he's done what he needs to do with him. They each have a bone to pick with Chase for this reason, because they each do have history with Oliver, and they're not really, you know, they're not someone that Chase has recruited, and that's really the only reason I think why he did call them in. But the way that Manu Bennett handled this return of Slade, I think is honestly really deceitful, but at the same time is pretty genius, because if you guys know, Manu Bennett said specifically, oh, you know, Slade's back, I'm just not the one doing the voice, and I'm not the one that's gonna be there, it's gonna be some other actor. So we were all kind of expecting that to happen, so to see that's not the case, and Manu Bennett is actually back is fantastic. I love the fact that they were able to get him back for these next two episodes. Now, we knew, obviously, he was coming back, but the fact that we didn't know was Manu Bennett, I think is genius. I can't wait to see what Slade is going to do here, and I hope that really does not let us down. As far as Nyssa, I'm honestly surprised Chase did not go after her, because, I mean, legally, she is Oliver's wife. Even, you know, whether he likes it or not, they did have a wedding ceremony, and she is, in fact, Oliver's wife, and I'm surprised that he didn't go after her for that reason. But the fact that she's back and her and Merlyn have to work together, there's so much potential there. There's going to be, I think, some really great banter between them, but they're also going to have to work together, and I can't wait to see the way that's really going to go here, because there's just so much history between all three of these characters, and I can't wait to see the way they interact in the finale. I think just having those three back is enough to, you know, warrant the hype for the finale. I think definitely that was very well done. But now also seeing Black Siren in the picture and seeing Artemis in the picture, that, you know, Chase has as strong as an army as Oliver really does right now, and neither one is really outnumbered at this point. I mean, the odds could really go either way, and I like that. I like that it's not what's going on here. But the other thing I really loved about this episode is that we're not setting up for a huge, you know, battle for the city. That's not what's going on here, because Diggle said in this episode, usually, you know, we're fighting for control of the city. We're usually fighting for that, but obviously, that's not what's going on here. This is a lot more personal of a mission. That's one of the reasons I've loved Arrow so much this season. It hasn't been about protecting the city. It hasn't been about saving Star City. No, this is directly, you know, involves Oliver, and this is someone who has a bone to pick directly with Oliver. He doesn't really care about the rest of them. They're just kind of expendable. Like Felicity, sure, he'll kill her. She's connected to Oliver. He'll kill anyone that's connected to Oliver. Anyone that's not, he'll easily spare, but he is obviously not stopping with, you know, taking down Oliver. That's obviously what he wants to do. He wants to break the Green Arrow as much as he possibly can. And I think that's why the season has been so strong. Again, it has not been about taking over the city, while it has been every other season. The only other scene that didn't happen was Season 2. Seasons 1, 3, and 4 were all about protecting the city. Season 2 was a lot more personal. I think that's why it works so well, and the same with Season 5. It's also a lot more personal, and the fact we're going back to Leah and you, I can't wait to see the way all of that's going to go down, because that is going to be fantastic. Where are Rene and Dinah? That's the big question here. Obviously, Chase has them, but we don't know what's going to happen. We know they're not going to die because both of them were just upgraded to series regulars, and we know obviously neither of them are really going to die, but what's going to happen there, we'll really have to see. Let's talk about Black Siren, because like I said, I really like what Katie Cassie has done with this character. Specifically now, though, the fact that they have made her a series regular next season, I think is very telling, and I think it's telling because I think, honestly, we're heading in a direction where Black Siren is going to be our villain next season. I think that's kind of where we're headed. I think it kind of makes the most sense. I mean, everything Oliver has done this season, a lot of it has been, in correlation with, Laurel's death, and because of the events of that, this is kind of why he has gone about things the way that he has, and why he's had to change up a lot of what he does, and why he's been so reluctant to get the team involved, because he knows what happened to Laurel. So if Black Siren is our villain next season, that really is going to do a lot to Oliver psychologically, and I really do hope that is the case, because Katie Cassie, I think, is fully capable of embodying that villain. I mean, she is very, very menacing as this character, and already, she can use that to possibly psychologically damage Lance. I mean, this could definitely be a really good idea if Black Siren is our villain. I kind of feel like that's where we're headed. We've never really had a woman villain in Arrow. Sure, we've had Cupid and things like that, but never a long-running villain, and I think that's exactly what we need with Black Siren. So I think that's really the reason why not only she was reintroduced here, but also why she's upgraded to a main character next season. At least that's what I think, and I think she definitely is connected to Vigilante, so we'll have to see really the way that's going to go. As far as Diggle and Lyla, I think they have worked things out. I hope they do, at least. I like that he's telling Oliver, look, we are going to work things out, and I hope that is the case, but we'll have to see really where that's going to go. Oliver and Felicity, I think they're just going to take it one step at a time. I think what they said is pretty much the best way to go about things, so I'm interested in seeing really what's going to happen there. And then Anatoly, like I said before, I think a lot of next season is going to be Oliver going back to Lian Yu to help out Anatoly. He knows, obviously, that Anatoly is still there, and I don't know if he's going to use Anatoly to his advantage, but I think Oliver is going to try to help him out. He knows, obviously, things haven't worked out very well for Anatoly, so I think Oliver is probably going to go back to try to help him and see if maybe he can fix what really has happened there. Overall, guys, I absolutely love this episode. I really did love what we got out of this. Also, William, what's going to happen with William? Obviously, we know William is in danger. I think Samantha's dead. I really do. I don't want to think that happened, but I think it is because she would have contacted Oliver by now. Remember, Oliver did not think that Chase got to William, and if William truly was in danger, Samantha would not only be going after him, she would do whatever she can to get close to Oliver and try to get him in on, saving William. So why didn't she contact Oliver? I don't really know. And why didn't we see Samantha as well? I mean, that stuff is very curious, and I think definitely there's a big reason why. So I think Samantha most likely is dead. She is someone that Oliver obviously really does care about, and I think that's what Chase means by taking out the person that Oliver cares about most. Obviously cares about, Thea the most, but I don't think Thea's going to die. There's no way they're going to do that. They already said they're never going to kill off Thea, and I'm glad. I don't think the show would be able to go on without Thea. Personally, I think if someone is going to die, it's going to be possibly Diggle. I could definitely see something like that happening. I could see a scenario where Felicity dies, but honestly, I don't really want a big death. Arrow's proved before that when you have a really big character death, it just doesn't really feel the same, and they don't really know how to go about things, so I'd be fine if no major character dies. If anyone, I think either Slade or Merlyn's gonna get it. I think it just makes the most sense, especially Slade, since Manu Bennett is on the Shannara Chronicles. I think it just makes sense for them to do that just to end his arc, but we'll have to see really where that's gonna go. Either way, guys, the possibilities for the season finale is endless, and I can't wait to see where it's gonna go. This is the best episode we've had since the show's return, and I'm definitely gonna give Arrow Season 5, Episode 22, Missing, a 4.5 out of 5 or an A-. So over, guys, for me, this episode of Arrow. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall. Left your thoughts in it. I am so hyped for this finale. I mean, again, just the possibilities for what could happen here are endless, and my next video, I don't really know what it's going to be. It could be a possibility of things. Maybe it'll be for Fargo, maybe for Doctor Who, maybe for a review of Prometheus, because I do plan seeing Alien Covenant tomorrow. But as you guys know, Twin Peaks is actually returning tomorrow night, and I am in the middle of binging the second season, so I do want to try to get that out as soon as possible. I don't know if I'll be able to get to the episode tomorrow. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll have to see really what ends up happening with that. Either way, guys, in my review, let me know what you guys thought of this episode, left your thoughts on it, and we'll see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye.